This week is dramatically different from last week, and I kind of love how quickly life changes sometimes, and in both directions, right? Like we can be having a good week, an okay week, and then bad week, and then the next week could be great again. And I think it's just allowing ourselves to time to process the bad weeks and not like shaming ourselves for thinking it's taking too long to feel better. I noticed myself doing that a little bit last week because I was having a really hard time and I started to get mad at myself that I wasn't like processing things fast enough, right? And turning around to this week where I have had felt the most success. So in my current journey of specifically my running practice, I've kind of had the best week I've had yet. And I guess I started this is episode 6. So this was my 6th week running because I kind of started them right at the same time. And this week I had the best run where I felt like I got really angry at a situation and was able to process that by running and just like getting my anger out. But when I got home from my run, I still had anger, and then I got angry at myself for still having anger. And I think allowing myself to just be like, it's okay that a 30-minute run didn't get rid of something that triggered me, right? Like, it wasn't that the situation was disproportionately small to like my reaction because it triggered a part of my self-worth that I've been working on, right? And so it took me probably 3 more hours of just like listening to my like loud, what I call my like bad bitch playlist. Um, and it took me a long time, like about an hour or so after, to switch from like this situation is making me angry to like, okay, am I actually angry or is my self-worth being threatened? Very different things. And so this week I went on a run today, and I had the best, my watch told me that it was the fastest average pace um, of any of the runs that I've been on. And for the first time, I was like, when when you haven't done anything and then your watch like congratulates you every single time, like that's the farthest you've ever gone, that's the fastest you've ever gone, and I'm just like, yeah, because I've never done it before. And this time I was like, no, actually, I actually was like proud of the accomplishment of it. And so that felt really good. And so like this specific like small piece to my like self practice is I'm seeing like little tiny baby steps being achieved, and that just feels absolutely incredible. And would I keep going if I didn't achieve those things? Sure. But those little, like allowing myself to see like the little tiny baby steps, like, sure, I'm still way above like what I perceive to be a successful mile pace, but I'm faster than I have been in 6 weeks, and I feel like I'm better able to like push myself and not just be like sucking air the whole time, which is how I started. And this week I had a conversation with someone about being a beginner, which I know I've talked about before. Oh, my light is going off. Sunshine. And so, it was like, okay, well, how do you, like, what if people look at you and, like, it's like, how do you get over the fear of, like, being seen doing something badly? And I think my obvious, like, quick answer to that is, like, just do it anyways, because who cares, right? But that is a big limitation, and has been a limitation for me for many years. I don't like to be bad at things. I'm a perfectionist, and I'm trying to decondition that within myself. But it's a very real thing, and so it's like, okay, let's come down to it. Like, how do we allow people to see us doing something badly? And I think, at least specifically for running, which is what we were talking about, it was like the people who I perceive on the trail who are also running or walking, no one has ever looked at me, and maybe I've changed my mindset to not see this in other people, but no one has looked at me and been like, you're running like shit. Right? Like, no one has done that, because they're also running. And who knows, they might be thinking the same thing. Like, they might be thinking, like, ugh, I'm running really slow today. Or, like, this is my second run out. Like, literally, but guess what? The people who are also out there doing the thing that you're doing are going to cheer you on. The people who are scared to do the thing that you're doing are going to be the ones that make fun of you, right? And I think it's this weird, social media has this weird way of just like, if you post, how old do I look? There's going to be people who are just mean for no reason, right? And so it's like, who, and again, it just comes to like the external, internal validation piece, right? Of like, the people who are also out doing the thing, right? Doing art. There are some catty fucking artists, like people who are just mean for no reason at shows, right? Like, I've done plenty of shows where I just like sit there for 3 days and watch people criticize my artwork for 10 hours a day. It's terrible sometimes. It's too expensive. Oh my god, this is ugly. Oh my god, why would somebody do, like seriously, like, people say that to your face, whether or not they know you're sitting there or not, right? And I think it's just like developing a sense of, it's a sense of not caring, but it's also a sense of like, how much courage has it taken you to try? Because if you have spent a year, one or more, wanting to do something, and then you finally get up one day and do 5 minutes of that thing, the amount of courage that takes is incredible. So if you are allowing yourself to get caught up in somebody else's opinion of you that has no idea anything about you, has no idea that, maybe you've struggled with A, B, and C in the past, and that's why this thing is extra hard for you, right? No one knows that except for you. And so if we allow other people and other people's judgments to keep us from being a beginner at something that might be our life path, or like something you are so drawn to that it just keeps coming up and coming up. Like, what if one day you're so good at it that people want this from you and you only need the courage to start, right? I know I talk about this a lot, and I feel kind of like come on, man, come up with like something else to talk about. But I feel like it's a message that I needed to hear over and over and over and over and over again in order to understand it. And I think that it is the hardest part of the process, right? Well, like I've said before, the hardest part of the process is continuing. The first hardest part is starting, and the second hardest part is doing it again and like continuing down that road, right? But I think another thing about this whole concept is like, ask yourself why you're doing it. Because if you are running so that other people will think you look cool, if you are running, and I'm just using this analogy specifically, I can say the same analogy for meditation, yoga, like all the things that we consider, reading spiritual books, going to spiritual retreats, doing all these things, right, to better ourselves. I'm using running because that is like my specific metaphor for myself at the moment. But if you are doing it so that you can say you did it, like if you're meditating for 20 minutes a day just to tell other people that you meditate for 20 minutes a day, is that really your reason for doing it? That could be a reason to start, but that's not going to keep you motivated in the long run, right? And I think it is important to share with other people the accomplishments that you see for yourself, and you're able to share these exciting milestones that you've set for yourself, baby steps, right? But to do things for clout, for somebody to like you, all of these things are not necessarily even to your benefit, because if you're not doing it for you, then you're doing it for other people and their perceptions of you. So it's not going to be coming from a place of fulfillment and like intention. And I guess I don't really know how else to speak on that, but it's like, don't do things to look cool or to like be, fit in with people, right? Like, being somebody who is, I consider myself to be like very much on the outskirts of society and groups. I feel like every group that I try to become a part of, I don't fit the parameters, and so I end up like on the outskirts. And like, of course I could go and shape and mold myself so that I can fit in better to this group, right? But that's not serving me. Like, that's not being authentic to me. And maybe that's what I'm trying to say, is like, doing it for somebody else isn't doing it from an authentic place. And when you do something from an authentic place, you receive 10 times the benefit than when you're doing something from a like shallower or like a place of like wanting to appeal to others, right? And I think it's definitely like one of those moments where it's like easier said than done, because we all want to fit in. We all want to find people that love us for who we are, but it's easier to a certain degree to fit in by being somebody or molding ourselves to be a certain way than it is, to a certain degree, to find people who can appreciate us for who we are. I think that is a lot more difficult than, at least for me, I have found that almost impossible. And yeah. The other thing I've been doing is I realized, okay, so I've been like writing my book, right? And I have this like world where okay, let me just spin it back. So when I meditate, and I'm like, my morning meditation is very much like a quick, like, wake up. What are the thoughts that are bubbling up? Saying thank you to those thoughts. Thanks for making an appearance. I release these thoughts, right? And then I go into grounding, which is like doing maybe a body scan or just like feeling my body sensations. And then I do shielding, which is like checking like the wards on my house and like the checking like my aura protections. Very woo woo. If you're here with me, you're here with me. If you're not, stick around, I guess, if you want to learn more. And so that's like my quick little morning meditation. So when I do a more like longer meditation where I kind of like go inside a little bit more, I have this like internal world. I think I might have actually talked about this before, where I reference like it's like I'm Miss Frizzle and I just like dive down into myself, and I've like created these like landscapes inside of my mind. And there are like castles, libraries, big open nature spaces, rivers, mountains, like all of these things. And I can just like walk around, check things out. I have gardens that I go and check on. It's like I've created like a little video game in my head, and I just like beep 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 go in and play my avatar sometimes. And I had this moment when I was writing, because my book also heavily involves this like meditation technique. And I think I just like had a breakthrough moment where I was like, am I just like, what is the astral plane? And of course, I'm recording this video literally not having researched it at all, so that's probably great. But I felt like I was like, maybe I'm just like accessing a part of the astral plane, and maybe other people could come and like visit my castle and like see what I've built. And of course, I don't have anyone to like meditate like that with, or anyone that has had similar experiences meditation wise to experiment with. But I don't know, something about that felt fun to share. Okay, so wrapping it up. Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, okay. So, lastly, and I know I say that and then talk for 10 minutes sometimes, but I'm hoping to keep it brief. um I know this is going to come out on Tuesday. I'm recording this on Saturday. And I know it's not going to come out until Tuesday, which is after the United States inauguration. And I know a lot of people are really scared about it. And I just want to say, like, in a world of intense uncertainty with like the TikTok ban possibly happening, the inauguration happening, like there's a lot of really intense tension in the air right now, right? And I think it's important to remember and to remind ourselves that it's okay to be scared, it's okay to have fear, it's okay to have grief, it's okay to have sadness. Like, it's okay to feel all of these things that are coming up for us in this moment. And then it's also important to remember to continue your self-care, continue your spiritual practice, because no matter what happens, if you're not taking care of yourself, it's going to be harder to manage your emotions. It's going to be harder to go throughout your daily life. If you're not allowing yourself to feel these things, if you're not allowing yourself to like process these things, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, and you can't help anyone else if you are not first helping yourself. And if your goal is to help other people, if you are in like an activism space, if you are actively going out and volunteering and like doing these things that need to be done, please make sure you are first, not second, first, taking care of yourself. Because in the like metaphor of like the you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And I think I'm finding that to be more and more true as the days go on, because it is true. If I'm stuck in my head freaking out about something, whatever that thing is, how could I possibly help the people that I am intending to help? And if you are having a harder time than normal, then allow yourself to like feel into that, allow yourself to heal that. And I know sometimes it's like that, and that's how I felt last week, because I was like, how many days in a row can I feel like I'm not good for anything but laying in bed? Like, how many days in a row can I actually let that happen? Like, I actually have to do things. And yet, like, if I didn't have that moment last week, this week would have gone very differently. And it's like, we can't prepare for the future by sitting in fear. The only way to prepare for the future is to care for ourselves, care for the people that we love, care for our relatives if we are in contact with them. Relatives being like family, chosen or not, okay? And, caring for our neighbors, just doing favors for people, like small things. Again, like it doesn't need to be big changes, okay? And I feel like I stop myself from reaching out to people because I think that they don't want to hear from me, don't want to be around me. I have that constant cyclical thing in my brain, right? And yet, when somebody reaches out to me and offers assistance or a kind word, it's so impactful. And so it's like, if we look at the world and we look at people in our lives, if we just imagine them wanting to hear from us, wanting to be in community with us, then they'll make it known if they don't want that. But if we always go around thinking that people don't want to hear from us and we isolate because we don't think anyone wants to be our friend, or etc., then we don't allow ourselves to open up to the situations where we can help and love other people. And maybe helping other people in your life is just loving other people. Just literally like showing up and being like, hey, how are you? And like having that moment face to face of like, oh, I'm good. No, but really like, how are you? Right? It can make such a big, impactful moment and difference in somebody's life. And I feel like that was kind of like an off-topic rant, which is what I am very good at with my little brain. But I feel like that might be a good closing place for this week. So I hope you are able to take 5 minutes a day, maybe make this a challenge, 5 minutes a day to sit with yourself or do something that you enjoy doing. 5 minutes a day. Do something that scares you. Do something that is is hard and something that you've been avoiding. Like, do the thing, because the best day to start doing that thing is today. It's not tomorrow. It is today. And I wish you success in whatever that thing is. And I will be here next week, hopefully with another topic. I feel like I always struggle with a topic and then I talk for 25 minutes. But yeah, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week, and I love you guys so much, even though you're on the other side of a screen and I don't know who you are. I think you're awesome, just for being yourself.